Well, it's good to be out driving around again.
Finally, the air is crisp and clean.
It's a beautiful day.
It is.
We've been in because, well, COVID, but also because of eye surgeries.
Right, can't see to drive.
Yeah, so we've been home for two different reasons. One, we can't see to drive, and the other is the people keep saying you're supposed to stay in anyway.
Right, that's what we've done.
But here it is. This is actually Christmas Eve that we're filming this. This is kind of the Christmas show, so we're out and about. We're actually out driving around. Now, we were looking for Christmas lights, but probably that would be best done after it gets dark.
Right.
So maybe we'll go back out after a while. But it's really good to be back in the car again.
It is.
After all this time. Anyway, we have a fun Christmas show. We're just going to be sort of recapping the strange year that was.
Oh, man. Right.
And we all know what a strange year it's been. So.
Right.
Anyway, 2020, the year we saw clearly.
Yes.
So how long has Santa lived here?
You know, we put him up, I think, 52 years ago.
Oh, my goodness.
This year we put up a small tree because, well, nobody can come over anyway.
That sounds depressing.
It does sound depressing. Well, we've been staying in working on models. This is the switching yard.
Right.
And we've been doing a whole series of videos on working on the layout. But, you know, a lot of people have a pandemic, a COVID project. And our major project, I guess you'd say, is the layout, the railroad.
No kidding.
Now, one of the things we needed to lay track are some of these little track components, which I had to cast.
A lot of tie plates.
A lot of tie plates, and, well, we had to fire up the casting equipment. We don't do that often.
No, but it's fun when we do. Heavy metal.
Yeah, no kidding. and that's not music. But I had to also get in here and start cutting the mold. This was the first mold I'd made in years. We've been using the casting equipment, but just on existing molds. And I had to make a brand new mold for some of these track components.
Ta-da! Perfect!
And this is the first mold I'd made in, gee, I don't know, 15 years?
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is brew.
So, of course, we've got an entire video up on this. We've got a whole playlist on working on the railroad, which includes making track components.
Right.
So if you're interested in this, you can go looking for that video.
There we go.
Let's see. It's a slightly tedious process, but not too bad.
I like to watch the outcome.
Yeah, isn't that fun? Because, well, you fire up the machinery, you get everything sort of dialed in, and then just you keep doing and doing and doing and doing and over and over and over again. And
look at that. Woohoo! Look at that. Perfect.
Pretty soon you've made hundreds of components.
Right.
If not thousands. It's really neat. And in this case, a bunch of pieces that I needed for the railroad. Now, some of these castings we bought from Logus Creek.
Right.
And those are made out of nickel and needed to be cleaned up. And then over to the railroad and start using all of these castings to build switches. Here again, there's a video, and you can go looking for that. And again, there's a playlist called Building Our 20th Scale, our 20.3 scale railroad, and you can look for that playlist. It's right there at the top level of the channel page. It's basically all of it. Now, this was a fun part of the project.
It is.
Yeah. And again, there's a video on this, but we spent a fair amount of time building switch stands. Again, the castings came from Logus Creek. Just bought rough castings and then spent, probably over a week cleaning these up and fixing them, soldering the components together. And that was a lot of fun building up all of these switch stands. So far, so good.
There you go.
I think that looks just like a real switch stand.
Well, and we have several of them here in the shop.
We do.
Well, the two out in the driveway and one in the kitchen. And not everybody has a full-size switch stand in their kitchen, but we do. But pretty soon, look at this, we had an operating set of track. I mean, at least in terms of rolling some stuff back and forth and testing out switches, which meant we were now ready for switch lanterns.
Those are fun.
And boy, did I have some fun building switch lanterns, so much so that I want to build a whole bunch more.
That would be fun.
Just to have laying around in the yard, a big pile of switch lanterns over by a lantern shop, and then the ones that are actually on the railroad, I set up so that they would actually operate. And then the road crossing.
There's the road.
And we did a whole show on building up the road crossing. You had painted the road crossing on the backdrop.
Yes, it goes to a mysterious area.
To the mysterious place out in the forest. But I really had an idea for a road crossing, and I think I was able to pull it off.
I think so.
It took 3 tries.
Yes.
But I'm really happy with the end result, as it turns out. Now, we still have a lot of ballasting to do here in the yard, and that, I guess, will be some upcoming part of the project. Some is done, but not very much. But I put power to it, and check it out.
Look at that.
For the first time in years, there's a railroad here that runs actual trains. We've had trains and components and bits and pieces around the shop for decades, literally decades. This is the first time since the 1990s that I've been able to actually run a train.
That is really cool.
That is really cool. A few clearance problems there. And the backdrop.
Oh boy.
Oh man, the huge, sometimes painful, always challenging backdrop.
Oh man, that's quite the review back.
Well, it's 8 feet tall and almost 30 feet across, just this section, and then there's the other section.
Yes.
So, well, it just turned into a massive project.
Yeah.
And then, it's like any other sort of artistic thing. It's like, well, this looks good, this not so much. Let's repaint this, let's redo this, cut this down, let's change this around. But slowly, parts of it start looking like the backdrop.
Right.
They say, ooh, I like what's going on here. And we just kept messing with it and messing with it and messing with it and messing with it.
Yes.
And both of us painting in different sections. And lo and behold,
there it is.
There it is. We finally had a functional backdrop. This is that train you painted.
Yeah.
That turned out so neat. And the hobo camp. And you painted a mine up on the hill.
I did. There it is.
There it is. So it just, at this point, I look at the backdrop and I'm just blown away with how neat the whole thing looks. Now over here, there's work yet to be done where I've punched a hole because now the train moves on to the other rooms.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
That looks a little bit precarious.
It looks pretty precarious, but right here it should go across the trestle and then into the kitchen. And here's a project that we're working on right now.
Yes. Oh, what a project.
It's a huge project, and it's a huge model. It stands over 30 inches tall, and it's the Chama Coaling Tower.
It is.
But now that we have a backdrop and some bench work, I need to figure out how the coaling tower is going to sit over there before I can figure out the rest of the track plan.
Exactly.
So I've sort of suspended work in a lot of different places until this thing can get built. Because I needed to know exactly what the footprint is going to be. And now we know.
And it's a big footprint.
It's a big footprint, but this has to be tucked right up against the backdrop, and the trains need to be able to stop here to pick up coal. Mm-hmm. So I kept trying to figure out where exactly the tracks needed to go, and frankly just couldn't until we had this building. Now, this was a fun project, building the roofing panels for the coaling tower.
I can smell that through the camera.
Oh, this is so toxic, working with these acid and this neutralizer, but it sure creates a great result.
It sure does.
So we're very happy about that. Again, we put up a video on how this whole thing was achieved, but this is the roof for the top of the coaling tower. There'll be more of that, but also the coal grates.
Yes.
Which has been just a couple of weeks ago.
That's right.
And these are all dialed in now and painted. And in fact, the entire base is now done, which is how we're able to now figure out the actual track plan.
Right.
But I think we'll just press on and keep working here on the coaling tower. So on to the coal buckets.
Those look good.
They're looking really, really good. Getting paint and weathering on them now. Now these are the huge buckets that haul the coal up the backside of the coaling tower and then dump it into the coal bin.
Right.
Where it can be loaded into locomotives. But those are coming right together.
Right.
That's the ongoing Christmas project, even as we speak.
Right.
Of course, this year we had the hurricane.
Yeah, before that it was an earthquake, and then our gale force winds. And
yeah, they called it an inland hurricane, 110-mile-an-hour winds, knocked out power, knocked over this tree over at the shop, and did a whole bunch of damage. But the number one piece of damage is it knocked out the power to everything over here for about a week.
Yeah, we were without power for a week.
So, of course, we worked on our own power poles.
That's right.
And not in the darkness. Of course, we had to work over here when the sun was up and let the light come through the windows. But it's kind of ironic that we built the power poles and the lighting poles while the power was off.
It was inspiring. We got more done than the power company did.
That's right. But our power poles turned out quite nice looking.
Yeah, they did.
And they work quite nice, unlike the...
That one was bad.
This is right across the street from the shop, but this is what was going on all around town.
Yeah, exactly.
This was the state of the electrical grid while we were working on our own electrical grid. Irony can be so ironic. One of the great challenges is building all this stuff when none of our tools work.
Oh, isn't that hard?
And we couldn't test the lights until one day the power came on.
And it came on over there first before the house, so
that's
weird.
Right. Then we were without power for a couple of days here, but at least I was able to test out the new traffic lights, the new street lights over there.
Yes.
And then there's the garden railroad.
Right, that's a big one.
That's a big one, and we got a lot done on that this year.
Yeah.
Thanks to our good friend here and handyman.
No, they're not. But my work's good.
Yeah.
I trust my work. I don't know about his.
Yeah.
I guess.
And once again, I just laid some test track down. There's some video on this, of course, but we had to rethink and change and modify, and you always learn as you're going.
That's right.
And boy, did we learn out here. So it took about 2 attempts to get everything up and running, but one day we had running trains.
Yes.
And boy, was that exciting to see trains running out in the garden for the first time.
Right.
Now we just need to figure out how to connect the outside part of the railroad to the inside part of the railroad. There's about a 30-foot gap in the middle there where it goes through the bathroom.
Oh, dear.
And through the kitchen and across the big gorge and so on. But pretty soon the two ends should be connected to each other. But we did a lot of experimenting out here. We'll probably learn a lot more as we go.
Looks like we've had a snowstorm.
Yeah, well, this is one way to test the track work.
Isn't that pretty, though?
And I couldn't resist the temptation to haul some trains out here and just see if I could make this work.
It works.
It works. It works just fine. I didn't put power to it because I didn't want to get electrocuted, because right now it's just wires laying on the ground and so on. But I took some stuff out here and just pushed it around, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, I decided to take some little pieces of wood and try to make a little teeny train.
Well, you've always been into wood carving.
Right, my dad did. He carved wood and I learned with him.
Yeah, and so you make these teeny tiny little wood trains.
Right, they're fun.
Out of just splinters of wood.
Yes.
But this thing's tiny beyond all belief. And then you painted it and fixed it all up. It turned out neat.
Thank you.
And then there was this one.
That was a little bit bigger.
Little tiny bit bigger, a little more detailed. You put some working features on this one as well.
Right. Some they're beads, again, seed beads, to let you know how small that is. But it needed a light.
Yeah, you put lights at both ends of the train.
I did.
And in spite of the fact it's quite tiny, there it is with little tiny sub-miniature LEDs.
Yes.
That turned out really neat.
I also made a display backdrop for it.
And that turned out quite nice. And you built this robot.
I built a robot. Yes.
The 6-legged robot. And he turned out really neat.
Yes.
He works really well.
Right.
And bicycles.
Yes, models, of course.
Models. Yeah, these are just kits, plastic kits, but aren't they fun to build?
They are. They just keep my mind occupied. And of course, reconditioning things off from eBay.
Yeah, this was no kit. This was just something that you had some fun building.
It was in disheveled condition when I got it, but I wanted to make it look better, and so I added my own little extras to it. And nothing like scrap cedar to make a nice little jewelry box out of.
Yeah, some leftover wood from the railroad outside, and look what you did with it.
Yes,
That's
just
neat.
messing around.
But probably the thing you've worked on the most this year are these room kits.
They're just a lot of fun. They're very tiny miniatures, but they are so much fun to work on. You have to have magnifying glass and tweezers.
Yeah, they're all just laser cut wood and
Right.
and then castings and other. But the basic kit, I think these all come out of Japan.
China or Japan,
China,
somewhere.
yeah,
I'm just not sure.
The instructions are generally in Japanese,
Right.
And I'm not sure where they're manufactured, but boy, these are neat.
The detail is unreal, but boy, talk about tiny.
Tiny, teeny tiny, but laser cutting is such a fun technology, and there's so much on the market now in laser cut.
Right.
And gee, I don't know how many. Well, you started with these little rooms in tins.
Yes, they're about the size of a Sucret's box.
Yeah, and then you build an entire street scene inside a Sucret's box.
Right.
And of course, it's got working features in that it's got, working lights.
Right.
And you rig all of that together, and there's a little switch, and you can even close the lid should you want to.
Right.
But building all these little parts, these are just really...
They're adorable. And by the way, those are like snaps and beads. That's how small it is.
They're teeny.
Yeah.
They're just teeny. I mean, consider that whole thing is in basically, like you say, a Sucret's box.
Right. I really like the little working lights inside. They light up the rooms and bring out all of the detail.
Yeah, it just completely changes when you turn on the lights.
Like Steve's layout. I mean, that's what it reminds me of, is his layout.
Yeah, and that it's all in this tiny little box like this. This was one of my favorites, your Parisian street scene.
Exactly. And with COVID, I look at that and it's like taking a mini vacay.
Well, we were talking about going to Paris, and
Right.
unfortunately, this is as close as we were able to get.
That's close. I mean, when you're working on it.
And this is really neat. This is a sort of European-looking village as well.
Right. The little flowers and blooms.
But you did, how many of these did you build?
4.
4. And they all just turned out so neat. Just teeny tiny little details and just so fun.
Yes.
So do they make more than just these 4?
I've seen a few of them on eBay and Amazon, but my favorite are the vertical ones. They're like a little apartment that's under a little dome.
Yeah, you built several of these.
Right, and they're up on top of a music box, and they tell a story. They're almost like these little apartments like you would find, say, in Europe or even in New York.
Yeah, they look real.
They do. I could crawl in that little bed right there right now and take a nap.
Take a nap. Yeah. And then the whole thing rotates around and plays music.
It does.
And here again, they light up.
They light up, and and again, I built 4 of them.
Yeah. And boy, didn't those turn out nice.
Oh, they're fun. In fact, my daughter, she decided she wanted one, so I gave it to her. And then the other one I made because I didn't want to leave the other daughter out.
You got to do that.
So I had to make one for Nicole.
But there's what they look like all put together and finished.
Right.
With the little rotating base and the dome on there.
Right. And then the music we had a hard time to figure out, but our nephew's wife figured it out, and it's called Castle in the Sky.
Nice.
So this is the one I built for my youngest daughter, and she's more of a woodsy person, so I thought this one would suit her.
It's so different than the other ones.
It is, and she loves the outdoors and going camping, and it had little pumpkins and fun little vines, just an outdoor, it looks very comfortable, like you could spend time here.
And I just love the fact that it's a tree house.
Right.
That's just so neat.
And this is the one I built for my oldest daughter, and she's more of a city dweller. She lived in New York at one time, and she saw this, fell in love with it, so I decided to give that one to her.
Now, none of these have been built verbatim, right?
No, I've actually changed things around to suit myself.
And isn't that a Des Strat?
Yes, I put one of my friends, I buy these little dolls from Des Stratford. She has green plastic camels on eBay, and she makes and sells these little dolls, and I thought this one would just look so adorable inside my dome.
Perfect. Now, we leave our ofrenda up year-round.
Right, there's a lot of, we do holiday decorations on there or anything that we're making.
Yeah, we just maybe redecorate it slightly as the seasons change, but we always leave our ofrenda up. But at the rate you're building things, the ofrenda's filling right up.
That and my leftover box, because these things come with plenty of little things to build them with, and I always end up with leftovers, and like, what do I do with them?
And I think you found something.
I did. I saw those little book nooks on eBay and Amazon and Facebook. I thought, I bet you could build one.
Yeah, book nooks are neat. They look like a book from one side, but then when you turn them around, there's a diorama inside.
Right, so I did this forced perspective.
And that's just really neat. But these are all scratch built.
Right, I made the lamp and everything right from scratch.
The kits are pretty expensive, and it's like, well, don't need that.
No.
Just scratch build it.
Exactly. Printer and printer paper, and away you go.
And away you go. So there it is, the scratch built. This is Dagon Alley,
Yes,
right?
it
From Harry
is.
Potter.
And the owl and all of that is built from Sculpey clay.
So I know Dagon Alley turned out so nice that you decided to do another Harry
I wanted
Potter.
to try to do another one, but Deathly Hollows, I don't quite enjoy that story. It's kind of scary, but I thought I'd concentrate more on the platform 9 3/4. I love it.
Well, it's trains.
Exactly.
And then this is your library room.
Yes, and I called it Karen's Corner rather than Sam's book nook or whatever that was. I can't remember.
Because this is based on a kit again.
It
right?
is, but I added my own, of course, Harry Potter books, and I printed off paper and printed up my own books.
Yeah, so some of this is from the kit, but a lot of it is scratch built that you've added in.
Exactly.
So that turned out really neat. I'm really fond of that. But the books, a lot of the books that you made,
They actually open and have print in them.
yeah, so this one turned out really fun. And then you went on to build a different one, right?
I did.
A somewhat larger one and a larger scale, so that the books and everything are just slightly bigger.
Just a bookcase, yes.
But the bookcase turned out nice, and so you built a desk for it and everything.
Yes.
And that turned out really neat.
It keeps me occupied. And all of these things have lights. I think it just brings them to life.
Yeah, it's really fun to turn out the room lights and turn on the kit lights.
Right.
Oh, and then this, you built lunch.
I did a sandwich from Sculpey clay. I was hungry.
Good enough to eat. And then these kits.
Those were the little square apartments. They're a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Dollhouse rooms,
Right.
but in a very small scale. I assume these to be 1/32nd scale.
Pretty close.
When I was really trying to figure out if they'd work on a model railroad, and in 1/32nd scale, they're actually smaller
Oh.
than what we're doing on the railroad, but somewhat larger than O scale, about halfway between the two.
Right. And again, I have to do things like get the computer screen to light up so it looks more authentic.
It turned out nice.
Yes, just a teeny little LED light.
And it's fun because I can see all the details that you have added over
Yes.
the kit. And so here again, we've done videos on these rooms as we've done them. And these two rooms are in the same video, I think, about when the power failed.
Right. I was wanting some lemonade right about then.
But they turned out great. Well, none of this is going to fit on the ofrenda.
No, and I'm running out of space to put things too.
So we decided for Christmas we'd run out and buy a curio.
Yes.
And here it is.
And look how quickly I filled it up with all my collectibles.
Well, you first unpacked all your Kittles
Right.
and set those up on the bottom two shelves. You've got quite an extensive collection
yes.
of these Kittle dolls.
Yes, not quite that far. There is a mirror in the
There
back.
is a
It
mirror,
doesn't go
yeah.
on that far, but it could.
But boy, do you have a lot of Kittles, notwithstanding. And boy, these things are fun to collect.
They are. And so far, the apartments fit neatly on one shelf together.
And they look great in there with the lights turned on.
Right.
You know, when we're building all these models, it's nice to have something like a curio so that we have someplace to put them all away.
Right, because they get dusty if you leave them out in room air and on a desk, or
And
as well as damaged.
And they'll just get destroyed.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to put them in here. So there's your robot. Now there's your pumpkin,
Yes, that was another fun project.
the pumpkin carriage.
Yes, it was all assembled out of wood, and it also is a music box. It spins around and plays music.
That's a really neat one. I love how that one turned out.
Right,
And here's Karen's corner right next to that.
exactly.
And where this doesn't have a cover on it or anything, it's nice to get it in out of the dusty environment. Oh, and your Metal Earth.
I've lost track how many of those I've built.
You've built so many Metal
Oh,
Earths.
man.
Those are just fun kits.
They are.
And here again, nice to get them out of harm's way inside a case.
Right.
And the Disneyland models. Oh, I'm looking forward to getting back
Oh,
to Disneyland.
me too.
It's open, but I don't know if we feel safe going there. But
Not
soon,
just yet. Soon.
Soon we'll be back at Disneyland. Oh, and your laser cut wood locomotive.
I love building that. That was actually really easy to put together.
Well, there it is, Christmas 2020.
Yes, that room looks a lot better than 2020.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it'll be nice to be moving on to 2021. This was the show just a couple of nights ago.
Right.
And so this is just sort of a recap on that. But it's nice to be at Christmas and, frankly, the new year.
Exactly.
And we're all looking forward to a much, much better new year.
Yes, we are.
2021, the year that holds out hope. Well,
That was quite the year.
it's been quite the year. I know there's a lot of people out there really looking forward to this year rolling over to the next.
Right.
And I hate to break it to them, but
Let's just hope it doesn't take up drinking because it'll be 21.
he'll be 21. Yeah. Jeez. I think it'll be sort of like slowly turning up the heat on your house when you reset the furnace comes back on. It's still darn cold in the house,
Right.
but it'll slowly start warming back
warming
up. So
up.
hopefully pretty soon we'll have all of this horror behind us,
Yes,
and
let's
we'll be
hope so.
back to something resembling abnormal.
There you go. Slightly.
Slightly. Well, anyway, if you haven't been over to the channel, pop on over to the channel, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Kind of helps everybody out, and the easy way to subscribe is the blue button. Are we ready for that? Right there, the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet, and we hope you didn't find it boring, and we will see you here on Tuesday.
Right.
Because we're playing with another galloping goose.
Right.
See you then.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.